Get your shit snatched if you out here playing.
How often does that happen?
I ain't never got my shit snatched, but it do happen.
It does.
Is 42 Dugg gonna be in jail for 5 years? All arrows are pointing in that direction at the moment. We got some bad news for all the 42 Dugg fans out there. As you may have already heard and seen, Dugg might be going behind bars, and for good this time. But he seems to think otherwise, and believes that the feds can't lock him up. On Wednesday, the 4th of May, 2022, Dion Hayes, better known in the rap world as 42 Dugg, got arrested upon landing at the Detroit airport in his private jet. He was taken into custody because he didn't turn himself in for a crime he committed back in 2020. Back then, he was accused guilty of firearm possession, and he admitted to committing the crime. Because of that, he was on a probation period for 3 years. However, 42 Dugg messed up in Vegas back in 2021, and earlier this year, in February, his sentence was charged as a result. While he was in Vegas, not only did he get into an argument with a police officer, but he also came negative on tests for drugs that he had taken as a part of his probation deal. Because of his behavior, his probation period got canceled. He went to court and the judge gave him 6 months in prison instead, and 2 years of supervised release after those 6 months. And that leads us to just a few weeks ago. Because 42 Dugg didn't surrender himself as he was supposed to, he got a welcoming party at the airport. The police were hunting him down for 6 months before they finally got him into custody. But wait, it gets crazier.
Operator in a gang case, if you call them out to fight via a public forum like Instagram, where all the blogs are gonna cover. You also show up to a NBA playoff game that's broadcasted on national TV. Please don't tell me you're on the run from the feds. Come on.
42 Dugg actually doesn't give a about the feds. Literally, a couple weeks before he got arrested, he called a guy out on Instagram for a fight, someone who was working with the feds. And before you ask, the answer is yes, while he was being hunted down by the police. Then, the night before he got back home on his private jet, he was busy watching an NBA game. He watched the Grizzlies face Golden State, a basketball game which was, of course, broadcasted on national TV. If that doesn't say he thinks he's untouchable by the feds, I don't know what does. It was very weird that he was out in public for such a long time, yet he was being chased by the cops. The police did claim that 42 Dugg used all kinds of tricks to escape the feds. First thing he did, and probably the craziest you'll ever hear, is that he declared himself a sovereign. What this basically means is that on paper, 42 Dugg claimed that he is not a US citizen anymore, and because of that, the laws don't apply to him. Clearly, this didn't work. It was some sort of attempt by Dugg to fool the system, but an unsuccessful one. If it worked, I mean, everybody'd be doing it. The other insane thing that he did was being on a flight without a tail number logged. He was trying to stay low-key and duck the feds by not being logged in when he got back from the NBA game. Now, this was very suspicious to the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, so they checked the plane. When the plane landed, the police got inside to inspect Dugg's private jet. When they saw 42 Dugg, he was immediately arrested since they were already looking for him. But before going down, he did get to flex on the cops a little bit. He was arrested with 25 grand, and he had over 100K of dollars in jewelry. It's also interesting to take a look at the jabs that were thrown between 42 Dugg's prosecutor and the judge, who he got to defend him for free from the government. As we already mentioned before, Dugg was in an unnumbered flight. He had a hella cash on him, and he claimed that his assets are worth more than $11 million. The prosecutor said that ain't no accident, and that he's definitely avoiding going to prison. It almost goes without saying, Dugg's attorney said that Mr. Dugg wasn't ducking the feds. He was out in the open with nothing to hide. Mr. Hayes did not flee. He did not intentionally avoid a sentence in this case. Like you already know, he was supposed to go to jail for 6 months. Now, the charges he'll face will change. He might get years and years because he not only didn't surrender himself when he was supposed to, but he also pulled out a few stunts that made it hard for the police to catch up with him. As you can imagine, a lot of people are straight up confused by the whole situation. For starters, how was all of this even possible? One dude on YouTube said, "I'm amazed that 42 Dugg managed to be on the run for 6 months and not get caught." On the other hand, some folks did not hesitate at all to share their opinion on what seemed to them as a foolish move by 42 Dugg. One person commented, "Dumb move, should have just shown up to serve the short sentence." And another fan thought that he should have just served his first sentence because he would have been out by now. He said, "The irony is, he would have just been getting out now after serving 6 months. That's next level dumb as Now they want to give you some years." And it's completely true. He now faces way more serious charges. Bruce Rivers, criminal lawyer, broke it down to simple terms for us. He said,
You get the new absconding charges. You have all the rights that you would have with any other kind of criminal case. So you've got the underlying 6 months that he's going to have to do. So there's no chance of getting rid of that. So then he could go to trial on the absconding charge or the escape charge. And if he goes to trial on that and loses, he doesn't get acceptance of responsibility. There's really probably no, viable defense to not turning yourself in.
In other words, he's gonna have to serve at least 5 years or more. But is there any way in the world that we could justify 42 Dugg's behavior? I mean, any way at all? It's a long shot, but there is. So let's go back to the original charge from 2020, the one he was supposed to turn himself in for. Let's take another look at that one.
He felt like, oh, if I'm possessing a firearm, it means that I have one on me, I'm carrying one around, maybe I have one in my house, perhaps I'm rolling around with one when I'm in the car. But pulling up to a gun range, that's just me renting it, I guess.
42 Dugg got arrested back then and charged with possession. He was not supposed to be close to any firearm, yet he was. He went to a gun range and he shot a gun. Now, let's be completely honest here, okay? There's a legit chance that he really didn't know that he wasn't supposed to do that by law. You're not even allowed to fire a rented pistol at a gun range while you're serving your sentence. But there is a possibility that Dugg didn't know that. The other possible misunderstanding comes in play a bit later during this year. In February, when the judge decided to cancel his probation and give him 6 months sentence instead, Dugg filed an appeal. By filing an appeal, he thought it was all good until someone gets back to him. This is the exact reason why he used social media, went to the ball game, spent time in public places, etc. He may have simply thought that nobody was looking for him and that there was no reason for him to worry at all. He didn't think about being chased by the cops at all, most likely. Unfortunately, this was not the case. As it turns out, he'll face some heavy time in prison, probably because he simply didn't know the law. That, however, we can't account for. It was his responsibility to get to know how the law works and study more about what he can do and cannot do. And of course, he has the money and the resources to hire people to do that for him too. All of this is very unfortunate for 42 Dugg's career. He was definitely on the come up, shining in the rap game. One of his fans shared his thoughts on the opinion on YT. Him getting locked up for more than a year would kill his career, but I think with the industry support, which he would get, can let him make a comeback. Whatever ends up being the case, we'll probably be hearing more of his music and more of what he has to say about the whole situation soon enough. Was 42 Dugg just ignorant and reckless, or was there more to it? Let us know in the comments section below. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out this next one, and as always, don't forget to keep it RIZZLE.